This is a reading from the point in the Revolutionary War when the Iroquois Confederacy broke apart. It's at the Battle of Oriskany Creek, a little-known battle in the Revolutionary War that we don't hear about very much, but very important to the people of the Iroquois Confederacy. Molly Brant walked with a quick, steady native pace, making her way to Fort Stanwix. She felt comfortable in the forest, although aware of the danger. The darkness provided security. Raiding parties did not travel at night. Even if the colonial militia were on its way to Fort Stanwix, she knew she would beat the Oneida scouts in front of them. Her heart was sad the Oneida were now her enemy. Molly thought of Rebecca. Maybe she should have let her come along. The uncanny silence made her uncomfortable. On the third day, near dawn, Molly reached Oriskany Creek, a few miles south of the fort. The forest cleared, exposing a ravine alongside the creek, providing cover. The terrain was rougher, however, and Molly was tired from the night's exhausting journey. She moved slowly and carefully until she reached another forested area, where she stopped to rest, to regain her energy, to make it across the clearing ahead. With her last burst of energy, she ran toward the fort. When she saw the guards and the turrets, she yelled in her native tongue. The gate opened, and she entered. When Joseph heard her story, he prepared his volunteers to march to the ravine at Oriskany Creek to surprise General Herkimer, thwarting his efforts to take over the fort. The creek got its name from the Haudenosaunee Oris, meaning place of nettles. George, concerned about Rebecca, planned to return to Albany after the ambush. Molly stayed at the fort. When the group arrived at the ravine, they saw a native struggling to help a distressed woman climb the rocky ravine. George knew who they were. He ran to help Rebecca up the ravine. As they reached the top, a Mohawk scout arrived. General Herkimer was approaching. 2 Oneida scouts had been seen a few miles ahead. A Mohawk guide took Rebecca to the fort. The others took cover at the ravine's summit and waited. As the 2 scouts approached the ravine, 3 Mohawk warriors knocked them down with well-guided spears, hitting one warrior in the back and the other in the hip. They then moved in with war clubs, knocking the guides senseless and slashing them with tomahawks. The bodies were quickly covered with brush, hiding them from the 800 troops close behind. Leading the troops on the front line was a group of Puritan ministers recruited from the countryside around Albany. George was impatient, waiting at the top of the ravine. Until now, he had had no stomach for this business, but since he had seen Rebecca, he couldn't wait to get revenge. Joseph held his arm as he aimed his brass rifle at one of the 40 Oneida guides leading the group into the ravine. On Joseph's signal, the volunteers opened fire on the unsuspecting troops, killing at least 100 of them before moving in with war clubs and tomahawks flying. Although he could have continued using his superior brass rifle, George chose to join in the stabbing and clubbing. It made him feel good. Each blow seemed a blow for Rebecca. He kept moving into the fray without thought for his safety. Although wounded, Herkimer moved his men to higher ground during a violent thunderstorm that brought a lull in the fighting. The thunder was nature's yelling to stop the bloodshed, causing the creek water to bubble a bright red. The colonials left the ravine, moving to a higher plateau, hiding behind the trees to reconnoiter. Herkimer instructed his men to use Oneida tactics and fight in pairs. One Oneida was shooting while his wife reloaded. Suddenly the Mohawks charged in again. The air was filled with blood as it spurted up and then down into the ravine like a trickle of a small stream. How ironic that a place known for its healing nettles now ran with the blood of so many. A Puritan minister fighting alongside General Herkimer was felled by a Seneca's war club. As the Seneca moved in to slash and mutilate the body, an Oneida warrior's wife shot him. Red Fox watched in horror as the Oneida warrior mutilated the body of the Seneca until at that moment had been considered a brother. As the Oneida cupped his hands to drink the victim's blood, Red Fox took aim and shot him. It was at that point that the Iroquois Confederacy totally fell apart and was split, never to be joined again until the 1970s.